Brian, we got you just in time, just in time. Hey, everyone. Good to see you all. I'm Lauren Conlin, and I'm really happy today to be joined by USPA's Brian Fitzgibbons. I know it's been a minute. Of course, Jarrett Ferentino, my favorite former homicide prosecutor, and Doug MacGregor, the renowned Geo-Profiler that I know everybody is so excited to hear from. So we decided to gather and jump on amid the really good news. I mean, it's bittersweet, of course, but the arrest of Tyler McCain in connection to the red rum of his wife, Nikki, 15 months after she went missing. And, you know, Jarrett, you can speak to this, but I think it's important to note that the DA is charging him with the murder of Nikki, but specifically, he'll be charged with 1 count of murder and a special circumstance that the murder was committed with the intent to prevent testimony. So as a refresher, if you want to give us a refresher, just so, yeah, I feel like I'm
sure.
not.
So good morning. Hey, Lauren. Hey, Doug. Hey, Brian. So first of all, this is wonderful news for Nikki's family, sisters, who we've gotten to meet and talk with. And if you look back, way back last July, I think it was, you and I did a show when those domestic charges were withdrawn. And as predicted, we said these charges could be brought back and they could be utilized as an enhancement down the road. What does that mean? It means not only are they saying that Tyler killed Nikki, they're saying he did so. One of his motives was to prevent her testimony. What impact does it have? Number one, he's not entitled to bail. So he sits in a jail cell until trial. And number two, this case just went from a 25 to life without the possibility of parole because of that enhancement. And I know it's California. He's eligible for the death penalty. That's an aggravating circumstance. So we don't know if they're going to pursue that yet. It doesn't appear that way, but those enhancements are a big deal. And it's huge. Here's the other issue, Lauren. You can now bring evidence of that underlying assault in before that jury. This seemingly unrelated assault that occurred days or months before is now relevant to the murder charge, and it comes in. So it's a huge enhancement for the case.
Wow. No, that's really helpful. I guess I didn't realize how big that was. And Brian, we were just discussing this before you jumped on. Want to make sure we're not missing anything here because, you know, in the probable cause affidavit, it doesn't quite say the date of when this confidential informant came forward to Shasta County and said that Tyler admitted this to them. So, you know, they could have been sitting on this for months, for a year, whatever. Was the final straw here the ID, Nikki's burnt ID that was found in his wallet?
You know, that's a great question. And I when I read that PCA, I was wondering the same thing is, you know, what was the timing of this confidential informant? Who was it? I'm going to be very interested, you know, if we do find that out through the trial or not, you know, if this person is made to testify or not. But you know, the burnt ID, that was strange to me. That was something that, you know, was completely unexpected. The other thing in the probable cause affidavit that was very unexpected was the blood found on the sheet by the vehicle. That kind of blew my mind. So, you know, and I'm sure Jarrett and Doug have both been involved in a number of cases where, you know, as things gear up to go to trial, you're always surprised by what shows up in evidence versus what, you know, on the front end, what you believe may or may not be there. And that was a strong PCA, right? You know, I think we can all say that what the prosecutor laid out, what Shasta County laid out there was relatively strong. So, you know, they were able to get that arrest warrant and, you know, now things are really moving forward.
Yeah, I guess I was sort of thinking, and I could be wrong, but I feel like this is going to be a really long process. I mean, I don't know if they're going to be trying to negotiate with him plea deals because they want him to say who helped him out. If his, I'm just not accusing anyone, but I'm just throwing it out there. Maybe his mother, maybe, someone in his family, friends, whatever. Do you guys anticipate any of that? Or, do you no?
He's the guy. He's the guy. He's the target. So nothing he can offer should justify any break other than life. He damn near killed her in those underlying assault charges. Then he finished the job, and this time has hidden her body to a point where it's either burned or lost to everyone, to not bring her family that closure. Even if he had help, Lauren, he's the guy. And there's nothing Tyler McCain can give you that will justify a deviation from, in my opinion.
So, Doug, this is where you come in here. I mean, at this point, we know about previous fires. We now know that her ID was burned. What do you think the probability is here, just from everything that you know? And I know you don't know everything, obviously. None of us do. But what's the probability here of her body still being out there somewhere, and him deciding to just get rid of it altogether and burn her? And I apologize for anyone that might be watching or listening that knew her. I don't want to seem insensitive.
Yeah, and I feel the same way. I don't want to seem insensitive in talking about the details of this case, but it does seem like he disposed of her body out in that area somewhere. In this case, we can tell a few things. We know she was in that truck after death. There's strong evidence of decomposition. There's blood, there's sheets. And so we know that she was transported. Now what we have to look at after that is a behavioral assessment of Tyler, and looking at his behavioral geography, his awareness space, to find out where she may be. And there's a number of different ways we can go about that. Whether he destroyed her body at the same time, it's tough to say, but destroying a body is very difficult. You can't burn a fire out in the wilderness hot enough to completely destroy all the evidence of a body. The bones will be there. The dogs will pick it up. There's other methods too. So that is difficult. And obviously, destroying a body, you need property to do that. Somebody you trust, an area you can go for some significant period of time. When I look at this case right now, I find, and I'd like to get Jarrett and Brian's thoughts on this. We were kind of discussing this before we came on live. Is, to me, the strongest piece of evidence here at the moment is the reports that he placed himself at that truck to a family or friend, said that he knew where the truck was, he was going to have it picked up, and then the police found it. So if that is confirmed, that means he placed himself at the truck with the decomp and the blood in the truck. So he's placed himself, because right now the truck is the only crime scene we have. It's the only crime scene we know about, right? We don't know about another crime scene. And in a case like this, you're looking for basically your three types of crime scenes: your attack, your murder, and your deposition site. And then there's another one I like to call, which is the crime scene corridor, which is probably one of those two routes in and out of the Platina area. I'll hand it off to yourself or Jarrett or Brian and see what they think about him placing himself.
Well, if I may, first of all, the one thing I want to describe about the truck, it's a shed line, so there's a bed. It's not like it's an SUV. So when you say there's decomposition in the back, it's a tonneau style covering, right? So it is an aluminum top over the bed of the truck. Her DNA or decomposing body should not be in the back of that truck unless her body was physically placed in the back, transported for ultimate dumping. The other thing I think is worth noting, we know Tyler is privy to fire. He's had 2 fires on his property. He's a burner, this guy, and he knows fire. So now you a partially burned driver's license, chances are, but as Doug said, I've had cases where people had property, burned bodies with an accelerant and tires on top of them. You got to get a fire so hot to get to destroy it. And even then, it didn't work. There were still body parts discovered. So the reality is, I don't know that her body will ever be found, but I'm looking at this case, and I hope if the family's watching, there is enough here about it, and that Nikki can rest without her body being found on the justice that could be brought from this evidence. The fact that he knew where that truck is huge, because as Doug said, that truck was missing. Anybody who was involved with her in her final hours would have only had the opportunity, or if they placed it there, to know where it was.
Brian, we are correct on that, right? He did place himself there.
Yes, you're correct there.
Okay. So I want to make sure.
Yeah, there was at least a couple statements made to family members of the truck breaking down, him getting picked up on that road. So, again, and to Doug's point, that is the only real crime scene that we have here. The second piece is at the Olinda Road residence. That's the last spot where Nikki's cell phone was seen. So what always piques my interest is, all right, hey, we have the truck over here in Tehama County. We have the cell phone last seen in Olinda Road. What movements of other people with DNA? They mentioned that there was other DNA inside of the vehicle, right? What friends of Tyler's didn't turn their cell phone off? What type of cell phone evidence and data do we have, of their movements on the 18th, to the 25th when the vehicle was found? So that's going to be, I don't think we're going to see that. They probably didn't need to reveal that in the PCA, but I'm sure they have that. And that, as this thing goes to trial, you're going to see the prosecution bringing cell phone experts to really break down movements of the who, what, when, where, why of Tyler and his anybody who might have been associated with this.
Right. And I just want to know, Jarrett, why do you think that we may, I know why obviously, but why do you think we may never find her body, I guess? Are you, it's just, Tyler will just never admit to this because no body, no crime type of thing, or just?
No. So let me say this. I'm just saying that to prepare for the possibility and likely possibility. It's been 15 months.
Yeah.
Yes, maybe in exchange for some information, that is the valuable piece of information he has. Look, I was part of the Brittany Drexel case. We found Brittany 13 years later. I'm not suggesting it's impossible. I'm saying, looking at the lay of the land there, and the fact that it's been 15 months and there has not been a discovery of her body, when you know who the players are, chances are it's been compromised to a point where it will not be found, or it's just not likely to be found at this point. But it's good moving forward without that fact. That's all I'm saying.
And just quickly, what prompted, I think it was Ray Moody, to say was it Ray or was it his accomplice?
No, it was Raymond Moody in the Drexel case, when he was confronted with evidence that really locked him in, some video evidence that showed a car he was operating in the area where Brittany disappeared. He fessed up eventually, and then he was hoping
up against the wall. So
he was hoping to get his girlfriend a break on the case, which didn't work out either. But the reality is, without Tyler bringing you to where her remains may very well be, it's a long shot.
Okay. And Brian, do you want to address this about the advocate witness situation?
Yeah, I know exactly what Kathy's talking about here.
Can you enlighten us?
Yeah, so here's the short answer, right? And I'll speak in hypotheticals. If Jarrett is my attorney and he might be privy to a conversation that I'm having with Doug, and then Doug goes missing, let's say, right? it's going to be next to impossible to turn Jarrett into a witness in this case, unless you have some other evidence than, Doug having told Lauren that he was there at this conversation. Right. So, again, I don't want to go too deep on that, Kathy. I just think, Attorney Borges, it would be a very unexpected turn of events if Borges turned into a witness in this case versus a criminal defense attorney representing Tyler McCain. As much as I'd like to see that happen, I don't think that will happen. I think that's very, very, very highly unlikely. Just that, yeah, I see that, I know the whole story. I don't want to go too far with that because, that may be part of what's going on the prosecution side of the aisle. And, but that's very rare. Right. And I think Jarrett would probably echo that statement that, very, very rare for we saw it almost in the Karen Reed trial, right? But
you're talking about the piercing of attorney-client privilege.
Yeah.
You're talking, it's rare. It happens. It's extremely nuanced and fact-intensive on the particular case we're dealing with. And Brian, not knowing all of the facts of what Kathy's asking about, it's kind of hard, but it is a mountain to climb, no doubt.
Right. And okay, that's really interesting. But Doug, just going back to you really quickly, and, when we first sort of jumped on and started covering this case, a big concern was not being able to search the tribal land. It's not as simple as just, searching a regular area. I mean, do you know what happens when you actually now have a murder charge and you need to find the body? I mean, like, does that affect anything? And maybe this is a Jarrett question as well. I just now that you actually have somebody that's being charged and you have probable cause to search certain areas that possibly are connected with his family, how does that get done? How are they able to do this to ensure they, cross all T's, dot all I's?
I mean, to search the tribal land, I assume you would need a warrant. And I'm not an expert on warrants, but I do help law enforcement agencies get back into properties that they've already searched to get a second warrant. And the way I do that is I look at their entire search of that area, what they've done, and I come in and I say, well, as a professional in geographic profiling, that's great, but I would have searched this, this, and this as well. So it gets them an edge. They say, now we've consulted somebody, we're going to come back in and search these parts of your property specifically. So there is that. Obviously, I'm not sure about the political and the social climate around the tribal lands and how easy it is for law enforcement to get in, but it is a hurdle. And when I look at this case, I see you have one of two options, really, is that, I mean, Tyler, I think we can all agree, he's a controlling individual. Most domestic abusers are. It's just part of their psyche. They're controlling, and obviously in a negative way. And offenders that are controlling, murderers that are controlling, they like to control the body after death as well. They like to have access control to it, territorial control, surveillance to this body. So there's strong indicators pointing in the direction that Tyler has hidden her body, buried her body, whatever you want to call it, on land that he controls. However, when I look at the Olinda property, I don't see that. And there's a big risk. There's a heightened risk in putting it on tribal land because now you're implicating the community as well and other members of the community. I don't think he would have taken the vehicle so far away if he wasn't going to dispose of the body out in that area. And as Jarrett said, finding a body is tough. She may never be found. I mean, that area is very rugged and remote. But there are a lot of places you could dispose of a body out there just off a cliff, and it wouldn't be found for quite some time.
But he doesn't control that area. I guess that was really interesting what you said. Okay. And and I'm speculating right now, but knowing what we know about the last night of her life, let's say, she was visiting Tyler's brother at the hospital with his family, supposedly, and now, listen, now I'm going to speculate without implicating anyone as, you know, an accomplice, but allegedly Nikki drove with Tyler's mom, you know? So, I mean, this doesn't make sense to me in terms of like this being a premeditated murder and him going to this location to do this. And I feel like it was a crime of passion. They got into a fight and am I totally crazy to think that? Or
I think it's a opportunity. He was waiting to get his hands on her when he could. She was distant from him for a little while, right, Brian?
Yeah.
She wasn't seeing him after those charges were pending. He gets her out. Who was sick at the hospital? Was it his brother?
Yeah.
His brother. They get Nikki. They get her in an emergent situation, and she's alone. And that's the kind of event that would justify her coming to Tyler. And then Tyler has his opportunity and seizes on it. So, yes, I don't doubt that there was some passion in the killing, but I also think he was looking for an opportunity to have this happen by accident twice. He almost killed her last time. I mean, he didn't slap her last time. He beat her till he got worn out. And then that's why she didn't die. Like, so I think it was a crime of opportunity.
Literally waterboarded her in December. I mean, that's sickening. And I mean,
so those kinds of crimes don't lend themselves to a crime of passion. That's a deliberate, planned act. And this is a crime of opportunity. He got Nikki in a place where he can take out. And that's what I think happened.
Yeah. And important to remember too, things were.
Sorry, is it me? You're cutting. You're kind of cutting.
A crescendo here. Oh, did I just cut out there?
Yeah, you did, but I think you're good now. You're good.
I was saying things were starting to come to a crescendo where you had the domestic violence case was about to kick off, number one, where Nikki was witness one of one. Okay. And then the second piece, and this is according to Kay and Chloe, is that Nikki was making moves to leave him. All right. You know, so this was kind of there were multiple things happening here where he was losing that control. You know, she's looking at furniture and programs to get jobs away from him. Okay. And to move the kids. So that, you know, again, Jarrett's exactly right. The opportunity came that night. But this was definitely in the back of his mind. And he knew that if he didn't take this opportunity, she was set to testify against him. And he'd probably be doing some time on that domestic violence case.
And it's in the affidavit, Lauren, which is worth noting. He was trying to get her not to testify. So he tried it the peaceful way, but the clock was ticking. So all of that is evidence that Tyler is guilty, but it's also indicia that this was an intentional crime of opportunity.
Okay, right. So that's you guys are stating that much better than I did. A crime of opportunity over the crime of passion here, because it was in his mind. It's just, he had this. I guess I'm just sort of thinking now, you know, his mom was a big part of this night because she was one of the last people to allegedly see Nikki alive. And so I guess I just have to wonder at this point, you know, as we discuss this, as we discuss, you know, where the car was left, you know, what does she know? What did she know? What has she known this whole time? And also the purpose of Tyler keeping Nikki's license. I mean, is that a trophy? Like, what is he doing? Literally, what are you doing? I mean, you've gotten away with it for this long. I'm really baffled by that. I don't know. I guess I'm calling it a trophy, but.
Well, two other points, Lauren. He signed an IRS check after she was missing on her behalf. So they looked at this thing. He brings a check to cash without her signature. They say she needs to sign it. Wouldn't you know it? He shows up with the check signed. It's been determined that she didn't sign it. She'd been missing prior to that. So that says this is someone who knows she's not coming back. He's taking an opportunity. So why he would keep her license, who knows? Was it Other than the fact, and again, the license is partially burnt. Like that, to me, if he is described as keeping her license on her person, which we all pretty much do, she's missing. This item that is tied to her is found on him, partially burned. I mean, that's a huge, whether or not for a trophy, who knows? But it's still such a powerful piece of evidence.
Yeah. No, definitely. And looking back, I'm thinking about, I don't know exactly which month it was, but the police having the press conference where they want Tyler to speak, right? They were fucking with him. Like, there is no other way. Like, they were so messing with this dude. I guarantee, right, Brian, they had the CI already. They had the information. They were, so close. And then it was just like Gone Girl. It was like out of a movie. I mean, to me, it was. What did he say? It was so uncomfortable. I'm not good at public speaking, like, or something stupid like that. And then it was so cringe, so utterly cringe to me. Thank you. Kathy knows, March 10th. Right?
Yeah, that was wild.
Yes.
And hey, chef's kiss from Shasta County Major Crimes Unit for setting up that press conference, because I guess and my legal mind has limits, but I'm sure Jarrett will comment on this. That the more
mine does too, but I'll be happy to.
The more you can get Tyler to talk prior to charging him, the better, right?
You're always trying to get somebody to paint themselves into a corner, like Tyler, commit to something, say you don't know, and then he comes in and all of a sudden he has information. So yes, I mean, you're wanting to attack him on his lie, and then really you're cutting off other options if he's taking certain positions. Like, he can't say he killed her in self-defense if he has no idea where she is, right? Or things of that nature. So yes, Brian, to have him talk and Lauren to conduct a press conference or be part of that conference that day is huge. And he did it of his own volition. They invited him up and he gets up there and he talks. So that stuff's it's not going to play very well for him. It's going to be great for the prosecution. I think it's also worth noting, the district said she's had two DAs who were clearly standing off to the side in their press conference. That DA Bridget said she's had two DAs assigned to this case since the beginning. So they were looking at Tyler. They knew to withdraw. And again, here's how I know they're looking at Tyler. They withdrew the underlying abuse or allegations of assault charges strategically. They did not want to inhibit the homicide charge they knew was forthcoming against Tyler. The DA specifically said that. So Tyler has been in the sights of two district attorneys since day one, which is important. And that shows you the level of confidence they have. He was their man since the beginning.
Yeah.
I have something that I'd like to throw out to Doug. So this case, one of the real anomalies in this case has been the wildfires, right? So, just about it seemed like for months on end, it was like every fire that happened in Shasta County was blamed on Tyler, right? It's some very rightfully so, but I would be getting calls and texts at all hours of the night. There's a fire up here, Tyler's second cousin twice removed owns a property, 2 miles away, and this, that, and the other. Now, it's been in the back of my mind, like, and we've said on this show before, were these fires some kind of diversion, right? Have you ever seen anything like this, Doug, where, is that in your world, is that a possibility that, he could have been that forward thinking to set fires in multiple locations connected to himself to cause some kind of diversion in the investigation?
I've seen a lot of cases where bodies are obviously burnt. We've heard a lot of them in the media. I don't think Tyler's that smart. I really don't. I don't think he's that intelligent, and he's gonna get caught up. I mean, yes, he's gone to some extent to cover his tracks, do some forensic countermeasures. dispose of the body, but it's going to catch up to him. I agree with what pretty much everything that you've been saying. The crime of opportunity. Tyler had a lot of motives, different motives to do this. The strongest one probably being the criminal charges. But he had other motives too. His wife leaving him, regain control, his losing his children, having to pay money in child support. And then he had a lot of stressors, right? All the stuff with Nikki, his brother going into the hospital. I mean, none of it, possible alcohol, none of it excuses, obviously, the crime. But he had a lot of behavioral indicators sitting there. Now, if I look at the actual crime itself, I agree that it was probably a crime of opportunity, but I'd be willing to say that he had been thinking about this possibility for some time, and it had been playing through his mind how he would do it. Now, I mean, Lauren makes a good point. The area out by Platina and Begum Creek Bridge, he doesn't control. But if you can't go to some place you control, you go to some place you know. And he knew this area. Everybody from that area, I would assume, knew this area. It's one of the biggest recreational areas in that region for kayaking, for hunting, for horseback riding, for ATVing. I mean, he had a cousin and an aunt that lived 6 miles from where the truck was found. 6 miles Euclidean distance as the crow flies. And it was just, and then there's the other thing I would look at here is, what was around that area? What relates Tyler to that area? Because he's not going to dispose of a truck in an area that he doesn't know. So likely this area falls within his awareness space, someplace he's familiar and comfortable with, but far enough away distance-wise that he thinks it acts as a forensic countermeasure. Okay? But if he's dumping that truck, how's he getting home? Is he going to, I would look into the R Wild Horse Ranch. I would look into there, who has connections there. 2,800 people have ownership in that ranch. And I would look into, obviously, his aunt and cousin and whether they were connected at all in this and just picking him up unknowingly or knowingly. But those are some of the things that places that I would start in looking into them. And you mentioned, last thing here, Brian, you mentioned the CDR data. The call detail record data. The big problem with law enforcement right now, and one of the things I try to teach law enforcement in every case I work, is law enforcement, they're detectives, they're analysts, they only work with data. They don't factor in behavior. And that's so important with the call detail records, the CDR data, and any kind of forensic digital evidence, whether it's an Apple Watch or whatever, Fitbit, is that when you're getting the warrant for that data, most companies now give 3 to 6 months of, and that's how much they keep. That's the history they keep. They keep 3 to 6 months on everybody. So they provide you with that 3 to 6 months. But the problem with law enforcement these days is they get that data from the time of the murder for the next 3 months. Well, that's great. That tells you everything he did on the day of the murder and the 3 months afterwards, but it doesn't give you a behavioral baseline of Tyler beforehand. So let's say Tyler was frequently or occasionally using this area to ride a horse or ATV or hunt, whatever it may be. After that murder, his behavior, his spatial behavior has permanently changed, and he may never go back to that area. So pinpointing him, placing him in that area afterwards may be very difficult. So law enforcement, they need to get those warrants started a month prior to the murder and then continue after, so they can figure out his spatial behavior beforehand, and then they can see what, if any, changes have and when they've occurred after.
Wow. I mean, unless you're Scott Peterson, I believe he's one of the only, convicted murderers that went to the scene like 6 times after the murder. But you're so right. I did not even think about that. And speaking of this, Doug, because, you do look into the psyche of these people, I'm thinking about, when Tyler, I think it was last year, leaving court. Nikki had disappeared. And I don't remember if this was for the DV case or whatever it was, but people were outside. His wife is missing, the mother of his 4 children, and he has the BALLs to give the finger to people. Now, if he did this, right, innocent until proven guilty, whatever, Jarrett, are you proud of me? If he did this, right, and he is out there doing that to people, I mean, what does that say about what type of guy he is, Doug? Just, psychology. I mean, what is the psychology behind a person that would do that, would literally do that to people that care about Nikki and just want to know where she is?
Well, he's an a-hole,
I mean, but
yeah,
is there, I mean, like, is that narcissism? Is that, like, what is that? Like, I can't fathom. I really can't. If that
he thinks he's justified in his mind. He has his reasons for what he did. He's sick of the web sleuthers and everybody covering this. He thinks he knows more than them, and that's why he's throwing them the finger. He's like, I'm not who you think I am. There's a part of him that's saying that. There's another part of him that's like, catch me if you can. You're not going to figure this out. So it's an arrogance and a narcissism. It's also this self-talk that so many people, particularly abusers, do that justify their actions. So he's saying, screw you to the world. Nobody knows more than me. I'm either justified or you won't catch me. That's his attitude.
Yeah. I don't know. I was just thinking about that, and I was like, now you've been arrested for, for everything we thought. And I'm looking back at your behavior again, the press conference, giving the middle finger. I'm just like, oh, and
well,
again,
and he hasn't helped searced. I don't think I'm wrong there. Am I wrong there, Brian? He hasn't helped searched at all for Nikki.
Not at all.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, and I remember speaking with Kay and Chloe. If you're not familiar, they're Nikki's sisters. And they would text Tyler. They would say, where is she, Tyler? Like, they had communication with him. I mean, I'm sure it was killing them inside, literally, to have to be civil and to have, but it's like, this guy has no conscience whatsoever. And I don't know if you guys saw, or Doug, you saw, but his lawyer actually asked the judge to prohibit video and photos of him in the courtroom, and the judge is like, no. I mean, it's just funny how it's like, that's just not, I don't know, Jarrett, you can tell me, but unless it's like they're minors, right, that are, or juveniles being charged with something, why the hell would they not be allowed to take your photo or video in court?
Well, especially, again, we don't have cameras in the courtroom in Pennsylvania, but courthouses in states that allow it, yeah, it would be if you have a confidential witness, their face would be obstructed, or a minor. The fact that they're setting the table for what will ultimately be a change of venue challenge. That's why he made that request. So they're going to say there's been so much pretrial publicity, so much against Tyler since word go. He cannot get a fair trial in Shasta County. So there will be a change of venue. So his lawyer is setting the table for that challenge by making that request.
Okay, I didn't think about that. You're so right. A venue change request is coming. And Megan made a good point too. He is an avid drug user. So I know that
Which is why, that's one of the reasons why he's in so much trouble for having the guns too. So he was under a criminal protective order against Nikki. He couldn't keep firearms, and he's an admitted drug user. When that's the case, remember Hunter Biden's prosecution, you cannot possess a gun if you're a drug user. So that's a double whammy on the gun charges.
Yeah, definitely. I totally forgot about the gun charges too.
Yeah,
as we discussed this, it's like
I'll add something. I think I might have cut out on you.
Yeah, you did. Go ahead. You're good now.
In cases when cases drag on like this, oftentimes, I'm not saying we put the defendant or the suspect up on it.
You're cutting in and out.
I think, you know what? I'm gonna log out and try to log back in. Lauren?
Perfect. Yeah, that works. Perfect. Yeah. I'm like, I really want to hear what you have to say.
And Doug, one of the things I wanted to say too, look at the Harrow case, the Emmanuel Harrow case. They're looking for the baby right now. The dad brought the investigators to a alleged dump site yesterday weekend, and they still can't find the baby. So this goes to show you, and they have cadaver dogs. I mean, what a terrible situation. And they have the killer bringing them there, and they still can't find the baby. So that goes to show you how difficult it can be to find a body, particularly one that was either burned or and somehow destroyed. So that it just goes to show you, like, sometimes it's a needle in a haystack.
It is. And I'll just make one quick comment. I completely agree with you. I'll make one quick comment on that case. I was trying to find, I couldn't find anywhere whether the dad brought the police or the police brought the dad. And that's a big difference, because if they have an idea of where a body may be, because of an eyewitness, for example, or if they kind of know where their dad kind of routinely goes, sometimes they'll bring somebody who's charged out to that area to see how they react, right? How the behavior changes. And I've seen that in other cases. So I was trying to figure out whether they brought him or he specifically brought them to that area.
Yeah, good point. Good point. And I don't know either. So that is a good point. He could very well have been there involuntarily.
Right. But on your other point, yes, I've especially in the Pacific Northwest. I've worked quite a few cases in the Pacific Northwest lately. California is close enough. It's kind of the same geography, same terrain. But so many bodies out there, whether they're just accidental deaths or whether they're, homicide, a lot of times they're found years later just by people using the land for recreational or whatever purposes, right? So, it's not, if I was working this case, I would identify specific areas to search, to start searches with ground searchers and HRD canine teams. And I would say, okay, start at this pull off, search 500 yards radius from this pull off, move to the next one. And that's the kind of thing I would do, because once you pull off an area with a body, you're not dragging a body 5 miles through the woods, right? So I would do stuff like that, and I would prioritize different search areas, whether it's high priority, medium, or low, just based off the land and his knowledge of the land. But in a case like this, she hasn't been found yet, right? And that's huge, because just by not being found yet, assuming for the moment, hypothetically, that her body's been left out in that area, it means she's in an area where people don't frequent, right? At any time of the year. So you can quickly narrow down specific areas, right? Right there, you're starting to say, okay, now I got to look off of ledges. I got to look into heavy brush. I have to look into, it's not just dumped on the side of the road, for example, right? So you can quickly start to narrow down those areas even more. So as time goes by and a body's not found, it actually helps you narrow down the search area. But in the end, it's rugged, it's rural, and it's going to be difficult. And it's difficult for ground searchers too, right? Just navigating that terrain. It's difficult for dogs. Dogs can't get up and down cliffs. So there's a lot of challenges there, just finding her, even if she's out there somewhere.
Before I go back to Brian, what do you guys think about, going back to the sheet? If there was I'm sure they tested the sheet, right? And if there was other DNA found on that sheet that, let's say, didn't belong to Nikki, didn't belong to Tyler, but someone else here, I'm guessing that they are probably working to figure out whose DNA it is, and if they would have to question them and then possibly arrest them as some kind of accomplice, or I don't know. I'm just thinking about this. Or did he borrow the sheet from somebody? Like,
right. That's not uncommon, Lauren. It's not uncommon when you have an item like a sheet to find DNA of other contributors, and whether or not that would suggest, certainly it's something worth running down. if you find some random person's DNA on there with no connection, how did this happen? But if the sheet was taken from Tyler's house, and we know they have a bigger family, there's a lot of people now, where was it taken from? Was it taken from a brother's bed where the brother shares his bed with a girlfriend? Who knows?
Yeah.
That could be the contributor. Where was the sheet placed? Was it outside that it could have been cross-contaminated with DNA? So, yeah, you know there's other DNA on there. It may not show some type of direct connection to the homicide.
Yeah,
And to,
I think.
go
Yeah,
ahead.
go
Mom.
ahead.
I just wanted
please.
to, I just wanted to jump in there. There was the reports say there was the smell of heavy decomp on these sheets.
Mhm.
Okay, so she was kept somewhere, right? So there's not only the attack, the scene of the attack, crime scene where she was attacked and murdered, but there's another crime scene. It could be that same one. It could be an intermediary crime scene where she was kept, right? And then she was disposed of later, because if you murder somebody and then dispose of them the same day, I don't see them saying that there was the smell of heavy decomp.
Right.
There might be evidence of human remains, maybe a dog hit on it, but that's not heavy decomp. They wouldn't even have started decomposition really in the first few hours. So where was she kept? Where did Tyler keep her? Did they take dogs through his house on his property, or did they just search it? Right? Was she kept there? So, I mean, that's another thing I would look at is where could he have kept her before taking her wherever, and have they searched those areas with dogs?
They did search his house with dogs, I believe, Brian. I remember when this. I do not think I'm making that up, but I guess I'm wondering why they didn't live together at the time, right? Because they weren't necessarily together. So I just don't know why they wouldn't have picked up on a dog wouldn't have picked up on any type of scent on him or in the home if he had just disposed of her body, I guess. Oh, Kathy says she never heard of dogs searching. I just feel like when they searched the home, because they did, why would they not bring dogs? Is there a reason for that? Or do you have to get like a separate warrant for dogs or something? Am I an idiot? I mean, don't all jump at once to answer if I'm an idiot or not.
No, no, you're not. You're not.
You're not.
Just kidding, but
I don't know if we would hear of dogs searching the Olinda Road residence, you know, or that if you wouldn't know.
Damn it, Brian. You are cutting out. So I want to hear what you're
So Lauren, because we're losing Brian, whether or not
we're losing you.
so Lauren, we know that the searches at Tyler's house were for the disappearance of Nikki. All we really have to do is drop a line in that warrant that says basically, if we're justified in getting in there, we could be looking for human remains she hasn't been heard from. That would justify bringing those dogs through.
Okay, so you're right. There is no okay. You're totally right. At the time, and I'm sorry because it's been a while, you're correct. At the time, Nikki's case was not deemed a homicide until halfway through the year. I don't remember the exact date, but at the time she was a missing persons, no reason for cadaver dogs. You're absolutely right. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So there probably weren't dogs then on the property searching, at least not at that point in time. But I do remember them searching the property. That is for certain.
Well, no, I think they may very well have. I'm just saying would have had to articulate that in the warrant to say Nikki hasn't been heard from. She is suspected to have come into foul play or been injured. And again, it said she was scheduled to testify in that all that would have been in the warrant, which would have justified bringing dogs onto that property is all I'm saying. They would have met the bar to justify that kind of search. That's all I'm saying. So whether or not they did is probably a question better for Brian, but I think they certainly had the probable cause to bring dogs into Tyler's house way back.
Right. Okay.
So much of this information already is older information that they had days after Nikki went missing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, Brian, you want to try? Are you on your phone now?
Yeah, I don't know if this is any better.
It actually is. I mean, you did not cut out, so please.
No, I was just saying that, you know, there are details to this investigation that we certainly don't know, right? You know, there have been searches that we don't know about. There have undoubtedly been dogs used in multiple locations that, you know, Shasta County is not telegraphing that out to the world. So I think it's difficult to say that, or it's precise to say we're not aware of it, right? But that doesn't mean that it didn't happen. That was number one. The other thing I was trying to interject when we were talking about the fires, and I was really kind of leading to, you know, oftentimes in these cases when they drag on and we have a suspect who, you know, in the court of public opinion is really suffering blow after blow like Tyler was. Oftentimes we can add sophistication to this person that shouldn't be there, right? You know, we can assume sophistication that hasn't happened, like, you know, covering things up or, you know, masterminding this big plot, right? We see in this PCA that there was heavy decomp on a sheet with blood evidence. I mean, that's not very sophisticated, right? So we're going to learn a lot more in the months to come as this trial unfolds, but you know, as this goes to trial. But I did want to add that sometimes we can assume a higher level of sophistication than exists. And
neither is signing her tax check when she's
right.
missing. Also not sophisticated in trying to cash it.
And I don't know, obviously, how the Shasta County investigation worked and, you know, what they did step by step. But I know that, you know, I guess a lot of people at the time, a lot of people in the community had expressed frustration, especially when the domestic violence charges were dropped. But I mean, I personally think that they have done a really good job up until this point in making this arrest. And of course, you know, like we mentioned, the press conference. But I'm wondering, do you think they were able to get Tyler's cell phone records as well during all of this? They obviously didn't announce that, but do you think that was a big part of it? And was he smart enough to maybe turn his cell phone off? Did he let it ping certain towers? Like, again, we don't know any of this, but do you think it's plausible that law enforcement got these records before making the arrest?
I would certainly think so. Yeah. You know, it's definitely in the realm of possibility. I mean, this was an all hands on deck for 15 months, right? When you hear in that press conference, multiple agencies, FBI, Homeland Security, when they're listing off, you know, California Highway Patrol and all these different state and federal entities, what that rings in my head is that different resources are being brought to bear. You know, that they're tapping into, you know, in more advanced technologies, a deeper set of tools in the toolkit that these other agencies are bringing to the table. So, you know, there's going to be quite a bit revealed as you know, the prosecution brings their case forward.
Cal Fire law enforcement was there too. The DA mentioned that, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, and how? I mean, do you anticipate this being a long road to trial with discovery? And I just feel like there's going to be so much, and maybe I'm wrong, but
it's going to be it'll be a while. I just think, and it's fine. He's not going anywhere. So, but these things always take longer than we expect. The only trial that came much faster than I expected was Puff Daddy's.
Well, that's federal, right? It's totally different.
It came a lot faster though than we expected. But Tyler case, you're looking at least, I would say, a year to 18 months.
Wow, that would be a ways away. Oh my gosh, my heart goes out to Nikki's family because it's going to be a long process, right? Like a lot of hearings, again, a lot of really disturbing discovery, but they've been so amazing so far that I know that, they will continue to be this way. But do you think at this point that law enforcement is still actively looking for more people to come forward with information at this point?
I would think so. I think that as the case develops, and the DA said it. She said, if you have information, bring it forward. All this information certainly helps.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, so I feel like sometimes they just say that. I don't know. I do feel like I'm hoping that all of these things that we don't know, that, you know, they have answers, and, you know, the DA's office is going to show it to us. That's what I mean. That's
some of the best stuff I've ever gotten has been post-arrest stuff. So I think, and the other thing is, you put your best stuff in the affidavit of probable cause. I know there's a lot going on that I don't know, but they're not going to hold back a major piece of evidence. They're making the case to the world. And if you see, the DA responded to the social media folks and everything. They need to show with surgical precision, here are the steps we've taken over 15 months. Here's the evidence we have. And in the no body homicide, you better put every bit of good evidence you have in that affidavit of probable cause. So yes, there's definitely things we don't know. The DA acknowledged that, and she said you won't know them up until the time of trial. I'm not going to release that information, but rest assured, the best and most powerful evidence is in that affidavit.
And Doug,
Lauren,
are you ever?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to ask you something. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, and then I'll answer at the same time.
I was going to ask you, do you ever, like, let's say, you know, the trial is over, Tyler is found guilty, but we still don't know where she is. Are you ever contracted to go and look after somebody is already found guilty, like just by the family, let's say, or I don't know, because I feel like, does law enforcement kind of wipe their hands after that? I don't know. I guess maybe it's case by case.
Yeah. So the answer is yes. But if Tyler, let's say, has been convicted, well, you know, law enforcement it's not that they don't want to find her. It's that there's no really incentive to find her at that point. They've got their conviction, right? And so, yes, I have discussed with families, pro bono on the side, but families don't generally have resources to do that. So it's kind of, it's difficult because, let's say she's buried. Well, a family can go get 100 volunteers and search on the ground, but they're not going to find her if she's underground. They don't have dogs, right? Or they don't have GPR or radar, or they don't have whatever else. So the answer is yes, but it doesn't usually turn out, you know, positive, right? They don't usually, there's not usually resolution and closure. The one thing I was going to say, following up on Jarrett, in that in a lot of no-body homicide cases, yes, they're constantly up to trial, looking for more evidence, trying to find her, and so forth. But in a lot of these cases, they will also offer a deal, right? They will say, if you give up where Nikki is, we'll take the death penalty off the table, or we'll do this for you, or take this many years off. And the reason for that is because they do have a goal of getting resolution for the family. So a lot of times that does happen behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's
the only card Tyler has. He's not going to roll on a bigger fish. There's no bigger fish than him, is the point I was trying to make. The only card he has is that information. And it may take him back down to a 25 to life deal, which I wouldn't take in this case.
Wow. I mean, this has been so helpful, really, getting you guys all together to discuss this. I mean, I feel like, I don't know. I don't know if I was just thinking, I've watched too much Dexter lately, but Doug, you really just brought me back down to earth when, you know, you made the point of, it's not that easy to just make a body disappear. So, you know, she is out there, most likely, right? And not to sound awful, but parts possibly, or just, yeah. So I think that was helpful for me to digest, I guess, and you know, again, get out of my fantasy world. But does anyone else have anything to add, just to close? Or
I just want to wish the best to Nikki's family, and Brian and Doug. You guys have done great work on this, and Lauren, you've certainly kept it in the front. This is one that, I don't know, Brian reached out to us as things were developing last week, and I really felt that, like, this is one that we were invested in, and just really, here's this case. Tyler sat in the center. Everyone's around him and doesn't know. Here he is in the center of the room and has all the answers and looked at everybody and looked around. And to have it come together like this is great. All of the things we hoped were happening with the DA, Stephanie Bridget, in withdrawing the assault charges were actually true. And I think she's done a great job too. She's got a great poker face, I have to say.
Can I make one final comment, Lauren? And it's just on one of the comments, and it's not that I completely disagree. What somebody in the comments says, I hope no plea deals, but this isn't about us here, the public. It's not even about, yes, we want him convicted and charged if he's guilty, but it's what the family wants, right? Like if it was my 5-year-old son, I would want him back. Right? So I can bury him. And if you have to knock him down from 50 years to 25 years, do it. I don't care. I mean, that's how I would feel, not necessarily how her family feels, but it's just to remember that maybe their family would want some kind of plea deal because maybe they do really want her back. Right. And that brings some kind of, it doesn't bring closure, but it brings some sort of resolution to a family.
Totally. And I see why their initial reaction is like, no plea deals. He deserves, the maximum. Totally get that. But it is important to be reminded that it is up to the family. And, I think a lot of people, they went back and forth about Brian Kohberger's plea deal. But again, you've got a family like Ethan's that's just like, let us just walk away from this and move on with our life already. That was so clear.
It's not up to the family though, Lauren. It's not up to them. Their input's important. But you're right.
But yeah, it is. You're right about just in terms of like, and Jarrett, you can run things by the family and say, hey, like,
sure.
Right? Like, but you're right. It's your decision.
I think the time Kohberger is having in prison and that's playing out for everyone to see has a lot of people saying, you know what? This guy is living in his own private hell now. Maybe it was a good deal. So I'm telling you, like, I was for the Kohberger deal I thought it was the right thing. Take death off the table. He's in a cage, not going anywhere. Now the world sees through his complaints and everything and the video that was released, just how harrowing that is. So just my thoughts on that too.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that we should, as I will try, I'm going to get hopefully a docket or Dizzy, we can work together and get like a docket. And then I would be happy to, get us all together if you guys would be interested every couple of hearings to go through what's going on and just sort of stay on top of this case and the upcoming trial. Hopefully a preliminary hearing at some point. Jarrett, what would you say? Maybe 6 months for that? Maybe less? Yeah,
maybe sooner. But yeah, that's the one thing to look for. And then one of my favorite things to do with you, Lauren, is to break down those pretrial motions and just kind of take the legalese and explain and dumb it down, which is complicated for me. I'm not all that bright, but to dumb it down and explain it in a way I could understand. So I enjoy doing that, and I hope to do that. And that's where we're going to find out some additional evidence in this case. What the defense is trying to block out is exactly the evidence you want to be focused on. So,
yeah, definitely. And Brian, once again, thank you for pulling us into this and just raising awareness and working so hard. I mean, like you said, you were getting a lot of interesting messages from people for a long time, and I'm sure you still are.
Definitely. Yeah. It's, certainly the phone lines, the tip lines have gone up again after the news. And hey, one closing remark that I'll add too is, Tyler's circle of friends, they're one moment away from being arrested for the X, Y, Z. And now that he's been charged with this, you may see some more deals being made on the side here for information or testimony. So, that's something to keep in mind is, it looks really bad for him right now. Right. It looks really bad. And if I'm a periphery person that knows something and I get hemmed up with some charges, I might be willing to talk. Right. So, I think be on the lookout for that in the next few months as well. And we're not going to hear about that until it goes to trial. So
that may be your confidential informant too, Brian. That may already be happening.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Well, guys, thank you so much. If you don't mind, just hang out for 1 second. And thanks to everyone in the chat for being here. Again, you guys, if you're not familiar with this case, there's a lot of different Facebook groups. They're really helpful. I've joined them. I post a lot about this on Twitter, as does Brian, as does I Am Legacy on Twitter. She's amazing. And Kathy is certainly just a trove of information about this case. She is on it, and she has been on it from the start. And talk about crossing your T's and dotting your I's. That is Kathy. But anyway, thank you so much, everyone, for being here. And hope you guys all have a great Monday.